What I'm going to do now is walk through what it would look like to begin onboarding your first clients. So if you click on the Transactions tab, this is where you'll probably spend most of your time moving forward. This is your dashboard of clients that you will onboard. And you can see here that under client name, you'll have a big list of clients and you'll have the ability to search their name and look them up and click into any of their profiles and have an understanding of the due diligence checks that have been done on your clients. You've got the ability to filter this dashboard by risk. You can also filter it by the staff member at your firm who has sent out the check. We flag escalated clients to the top of the dashboard so that your compliance officer can see them straight away. And you've got an overview at the top here. And what I'm going to do now is just show you what it would look like to send out a check and what it would look like to onboard your staff member, your client, sorry. So if you click All Services and click People, you want to come to the InfoTrack ID section here that's been pinned. I would recommend pinning it to your home screen so it's easy to find. And you just want to click on it. This will bring you into your onboarding dashboard where you'll send this check out. And you're going to come over here and click Start New Order. As you can see here, you've got options for a few different types of entities or individuals that you might be onboarding. Today, I'm going to look at what it's like to onboard an individual, and I'm going to do that using dummy data to get us through this a bit quicker. I'm going to click Continue, and that brings us into the loading screen. Now, typically, you'd click Continue and send this out to your client, but I'm going to pause here for a second and talk through what's on the page in front of us. First of all, every single time you send out one of our AML checks, there will always be a verification of identity on by default. It is InfoTrack's InfoTrack ID. It is products that we send more than 1 million of a year, and that has been around for a long time. So it's very tried and tested verification of identity service. And the first thing that you want to do is just check that you are sending out the compliance level that you wish to. So you might want to do single document, or you might want to do 100 points of ID. That's up to you, which one of those you choose. I'll select 100 points of ID today, just because that is a more commonly understood verification of identity standard. And you might want to check whether or not it says remote or in person. If your client has come in to visit you, you can nominate in person and put your own mobile phone number in, and then you can ask them to put their identity documents on the table in front of you and take photographs with your phone, and it'll come back here to your account. If your client's not there in person, then you may want to click remote, and that will email them a link to upload the documents themselves. Obviously, no video will be most convenient for them, but you have the opportunity to add on a liveness check or video recording, which are security features that take extra steps to verify your client's identity. For today, I'm just going to click no video. And the next thing that I'm going to click is the PEP sanctions and adverse media check. This won't be sent to your client. This will return instantly, as you'll see in a moment, and it will screen your client for PEP sanctions and adverse media across 18,000 different lists globally. It is very thorough. This will form the backbone of your CDD process, your client due diligence process that you have probably read about in the AUSTRAC starter packs. In addition, you'll probably want to send out the KYC onboarding form. The reason that you'll send this form out is that AUSTRAC in the starter packs and elsewhere is clearly indicating that they want you to record the purpose of the engagement and ask key questions around some of the risk factors of your clients to make sure that you're not just verifying their identity and you're not just screening for PEP sanctions and adverse media, but you're actually inquiring with your client about other critical risk factors. So this KYC onboarding form is a short form that goes to your client. I can preview it for you here, and you can preview it for yourself when you come to this screen as well. and it's going to ask your client some of those key KYC onboarding questions and then store the results inside your compliance center next to their name. So the three things that you have ticked on the screen in front of you will probably form the backbone of your client due diligence process, your CDD. You have the option to send a verification of funds at this stage as well, although what we hear from clients and what we assume is that most of you won't send the verification of funds. I will talk about that at a later date and how it meets the enhanced client due diligence portion of AUSTRAC's legislation and starter packs. So I'll go ahead and click continue. You have the option to add instructions for your client if you wish to, and if you don't, you can just click send client. This will go out. You can see that the PEP sanctions and adverse media check has returned instantly, and that's the way it'll look for your client. And you can see that the KYC onboarding form and the verification of identity have both been sent to your client, and that will be waiting in their inbox for them to respond to and complete. So at this step, you would go away, work on something else and wait for the email notification letting you know that your client, Peter McVeigh, has responded to the checks and you need to go in and onboard them. So I'm going to take that step now by clicking the Simulate Consumer button, which is going to simulate my client responding. And I'm going to come back and click on the Compliance Center. And so we'll pretend that 24 hours has passed and this client has responded to the checks. I'm going to come in and click on their name and have a look. So when your client responds, you'll come into the Compliance Center as you've just seen me done, and you'll click on their name and you'll come in here and you'll have a few actions right away. These 5 actions under the client due diligence section will all be waiting for you. The first thing you'll need to do is confirm their verification of identity. So this one's been completed through our demo automation, but you'll need to click verify and go through a 2-factor process to look at their identity documents and confirm that this is your client. That's the only time you'll see their identity documents. We won't put images of them in any of the reports or outputs, but you will need to take that step to verify their identity. You'll also need to read the PEP sanctions and adverse media check and make sure that you're comfortable with what's in there. And you'll probably want to read the KYC onboarding form and check that everything looks good in there and lines up with the services that you've talked to your client about. Completing those 3 steps will probably take you something like 3 minutes, and that means you'll just have the risk assessment and the final onboarding checks left to do. To do the risk assessment, click complete. And what you'll see here is, again, some of the key risk factors from AUSTRAC starter packs. The reason that we've included these here is AUSTRAC is calling on you to assess each of your clients for these risk factors, and this lets you document, record, and show that you have assessed every single client for these risk factors. What I'm going to do today is click no to all these risk factors, which will allow me to move through this much faster. Just noting that you would probably take a little bit more time to identify these and if they relate to your client. Once I'm done, I'll click Update Risk, and that completes my risk assessment. And you can see up the top now, my client now has a risk rating. This client is low risk. And that just leaves my final onboarding checks to do. I'll click Complete. This is a checklist of things that you should be doing for every single client to make sure that you are fully compliant with the Tranche 2 legislation. You have the option down the bottom to select all simultaneously if you're comfortable. Click Save, and that is now complete. You can see that the onboarding button has now flashed colored, and I can click on it and go ahead and onboard my client. You'll also note up the top that under this menu, we have an audit trail that will track changes to this client. And if this client wasn't low risk, if this client was high risk, you would have the ability to engage in an enhanced client due diligence process. You'll be familiar with this term from the AUSTRAC starter packs, where it talks about engaging in an enhanced client due diligence if your client is high risk. So when I referred to the verification of funds earlier, The verification of funds sit here, and you have the option to send them later if you wish to. They will be emailed to your client. Your client will be prompted to upload their last 6 to 12 months of bank statements. Those will be returned to you, and InfoTrack's AI overlay will scan the bank statements for suspicious transactions and flag them to you. If you have a high-risk client, that doesn't mean that you can't take them on. It just means, and please consult the starter packs or the legislation, it just means that you will likely need to do an enhanced client due diligence process, seeing that they are high risk. And we allow you to do this at a later step once you've assessed the risk, because we imagine for most of your clients, you would probably like to avoid sending them the verification of funds, and that means you can leave this step until you're required to enter an enhanced client due diligence process. I'll tick that off. You have the ability to also escalate this. Your client-facing personnel can escalate to a compliance officer. Again, AUSTRAC requires that you have a defined and documented process for escalating high-risk clients, and that exists here. That brings us to the end of this demonstration.